You walk onto an airplane, stow your bag, sit down, and probably zone out until the snack cart rolls by. To you, the flight attendant is a background character in the movie of your travel day, someone there to hand you a ginger ale and smile. But have you ever stopped to think about the movie playing in their head? Because I promise you, it is a completely different genre. It is a psychological thriller, a safety procedural, and a customer service endurance test all rolled into one. We tend to view flight attendants as waiters in the sky, but the reality is that their primary role, the reason they are federally mandated to be on that aircraft, is to save your life in the event of an evacuation. The service aspect, that is just the icing on the cake to keep everyone calm. Because of this massive disconnect between what passengers think the job is and what the job actually is, there are specific behaviors, some subtle, some blatant, that absolutely drive crew members up the wall. Today we are going deep. We are pulling back the curtain on the galley to reveal 15 things flight attendants secretly hate, but more importantly, why they hate them. This isn't just a list of complaints. This is an insider's guide to the psychology of air travel, the hidden logistics of the airline industry, and how you can stop being a source of stress and start being the passenger every crew member hopes to see in seat 14A. Let's start with the very first moment you step onto the plane. The boarding process is the most stressful part of the flight for the crew. They are on a strict time crunch. Airlines track metrics down to the minute, and if a plane pushes back late, the crew often gets blamed. So, the first thing that drives them crazy is the boarding pass fumble. You have been standing at the gate for 30 minutes. You scanned your pass to get on the jet bridge. Yet, invariably, when people reach the cabin door, they stop dead in their tracks to rummage through a backpack for their seat number. Or they try to show the flight attendant their phone screen which has gone dark or rotated. When you stop in the doorway, you aren't just delaying yourself, you are creating a bottleneck that ripples all the way back up the jet bridge. Flight attendants are analyzing every person walking on, checking for intoxication, illness, or suspicious behavior, and when you block the flow, you break their situational awareness and kill their on-time departure stats. The best passengers know their seat number by heart before they cross the threshold. Moving down the aisle, we hit the second massive pain point, the overhead bin Tetris. There is a strange psychological phenomenon where passengers assume that because they managed to drag a bag onto the plane, it is the flight attendant's job to lift it into the bin for them. Here is the secret they wish you knew: they are not paid to lift your bags. In fact, many airlines explicitly tell their staff not to lift heavy luggage because if they throw out their back, it is considered an on-the-job injury that puts them out of work, sometimes without full coverage depending on the union contract. If you packed it, you need to be able to lift it. Watching a passenger stand there and stare at a heavy bag, expecting a flight attendant who might be half their size to hoist it up, is viewed as deeply disrespectful. If you are struggling, ask a fellow passenger, but don't look at the crew with that "well, aren't you going to help?" expression. They aren't avoiding it to be lazy, they are avoiding it to preserve their physical health for a career that is physically punishing. Now, let's talk about personal space. This is number 3, and it is a big one. The poker. I cannot stress this enough: do not touch the flight attendants. You would be shocked at how many people think it is acceptable to poke a crew member in the waist, tap them on the shoulder, or grab their elbow as they walk by to ask for a refill or hand over trash. Think about your own workspace. If a stranger came up behind you and poked you in the ribs while you were typing, you would likely jump out of your skin. Flight attendants are often in a state of hyper-awareness. Being physically touched by a stranger is startling and invasive. It immediately triggers a defensive response. If you need their attention, a simple "excuse me" when they make eye contact is perfect. Or, if they are facing away, wait. Poking, prodding, or grabbing their clothing is a fast way to get on their bad side because it dehumanizes them, treating them like a vending machine rather than a person. Number 4 is a modern plague caused by technology, the headphone zombie. This happens during the safety briefing and, more frustratingly, during the service run. The cart is rolling down the aisle. The flight attendant looks at you and asks, "Would you like a drink?" You just stare blankly because you have noise-canceling headphones on. They ask again, louder. You finally notice. pull one earbud out, and say, "What?" They repeat the list. You say, "Coke." They ask, "Ice?" You say, "What?" This back and forth dance adds 30 to 40 seconds per passenger. Multiply that by 100 passengers, and you are delaying the service for the entire cabin. It is exhausting for the crew to scream over the imaginary barrier of your noise cancellation. The rule of thumb here is simple: when you see the cart, headphones come off. It's a basic courtesy that signals you are present and respectful of their time. Let's get a little gross for number 5. The shoeless wonder. Specifically, the passenger who walks into the lavatory without shoes on. Flight attendants secretly hate this. Not just because feet can be smelly, but because they know the truth about the floor. That liquid on the bathroom floor? It is rarely water. Turbulences happen. Aim is not always perfect. The floor of an airplane bathroom is a petri dish of biological waste. When you walk in there in your socks or, heaven forbid, barefoot, you are absorbing that into the fabric of your socks. Then you walk back to your seat, put your feet up on the bulkhead or tuck them under you, and track that bacteria everywhere. Crew members are trained in hygiene and safety, and watching someone compromise the cleanliness of the cabin simply because they want to be comfortable is a massive pet peeve. Keep your shoes on. If not for them, do it for yourself. Number 6 is about the galley. This is the kitchen area at the front or back of the plane. To passengers, this looks like empty standing room. To the crew, this is their office, their break room, and their kitchen. It is the only place on the aircraft where they can escape the gaze of hundreds of eyes, eat a meal, or decompress for a moment. When passengers come into the galley to do yoga, stretch their legs, or just hang out and chat, it is the equivalent of a customer walking into the employees-only break room at a restaurant and starting a conversation while the waiter is trying to chew a sandwich. It invades their sanctuary. Flight attendants hate having to awkwardly navigate around a passenger doing lunges just to get the coffee pot. If you need to stretch, try to do it near the bathroom when it's not crowded, but stay out of the galley unless you are invited. We are nearly halfway through, and this is a great moment to mention that if you are enjoying this deep dive into the hidden dynamics of the airline industry, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We break down the psychology and systems of the world's most fascinating industries every single week, and you don't want to miss the next one. Moving on to number 7, the call button abuse. The call button is primarily there for emergencies or urgent needs. It is not a butler bell. Flight attendants understand that sometimes you need water or have a question, but there is a hierarchy of needs. Pressing the call button during a severe patch of turbulence to ask for a Diet Coke is a major safety violation. You are asking a crew member to risk physical injury for a beverage. Furthermore, pressing it repeatedly because they didn't come in 10 seconds is a surefire way to be labeled a problem passenger. The crew might be handling a medical situation, dealing with a pilot request, or securing a cabin issue you can't see. Use the button sparingly. If the seatbelt sign is off and the crew is in the aisle, just wave them down. If the seatbelt sign is on, stay in your seat and wait. Number 8 is a logistical nightmare, the trash handoff during meal service. Picture this: the flight attendant is handing out hot meals or pouring drinks. They are wearing gloves for food service. A passenger finishes a wrapper from a snack they brought on board and tries to hand this dirty trash to the flight attendant while they are holding a pot of coffee. This puts the crew in a terrible position. They cannot mix trash with the clean food cart. That is a health code violation. They also don't want to touch your used tissues or sticky wrappers while they are handling food for others. It forces them to stop, find a place to stash it, change gloves, and restart. Wait for the trash cart. It comes through specifically for this purpose. Trying to be helpful by handing over trash early actually slows everything down and creates a hygiene risk. Number 9 is one that touches on the unpaid aspect of the job, blaming the crew for delays. Here is a piece of industry knowledge most people don't have. Flight attendants and pilots are generally paid by flight hours, which usually starts when the aircraft door closes and the parking brake is released. They are typically not paid their full hourly rate for boarding, deplaning, or sitting at the gate during a maintenance delay. So, when the flight is delayed for 2 hours and you are angry, remember that the flight attendant is also sitting there, trapped in a metal tube. likely not getting paid for that time, and missing their connection or their rest time at the hotel. They want to leave just as much as you do, perhaps even more. Taking your frustration out on them is kicking someone who is already down. They have zero control over air traffic control or mechanics. Screaming at them changes nothing except the vibe of the flight. Number 10. The seatbelt sign skeptic. You would be amazed at how many adults believe the seatbelt sign is a suggestion. Flight attendants hate this because they are the ones who have to enforce it, often feeling like kindergarten teachers scolding toddlers. But it's not about control, it's about physics. Clear air turbulence can happen without warning. It can drop a plane hundreds of feet in a second. If you are not buckled in, you become a projectile. You hit the ceiling. You land on other passengers. When a flight attendant walks through the cabin telling you to buckle up, they are legally required to do so. If you ignore them, you aren't just risking your neck, you are creating a liability for them and the airline. Plus, if you get up to use the bathroom when the pilot has specifically said flight attendants take your jump seats, you are delaying the landing sequence. The pilots often cannot descend until the cabin is secure. Your bladder emergency could force the plane to circle, wasting fuel and time for everyone. Number 11 is the connection panic. We have all been there. The flight is late, and you have a tight connection. Passengers often demand that flight attendants call the gate or hold the next plane. Here is the hard truth: flight attendants have no communication line to the gate agents of your connecting flight. They cannot radio ahead to hold a 737 for one person. When you demand they do something, you are asking for the impossible. What they can do is ask passengers to let tight connections off first, but they cannot physically force people to stay seated. When passengers get aggressive about connections, it puts the crew in a helpless position. They empathize, but they are operationally powerless in that moment. The best approach is to check your app, look for rebooking options, and ask calmly if they have any gate information, understanding that their data might be as limited as yours. Number 12. The complex coffee order during rush hour. Airline coffee is not Starbucks. The water doesn't get hot enough, and the beans are, well, they are industrial. But beyond the quality, it's the logistics. If the crew has to serve 150 people on a 45-minute flight, asking for a coffee with 2 creams, 3 sugars, and only half a cup slows the line. The cart is designed for speed. Cans, cups, ice, pour. When you introduce a bespoke beverage construction project, you are eating into the time the crew needs to ensure everyone gets at least something. If it's a long international flight, sure, ask for what you want. But on a short hop, keep it simple. They appreciate the efficiency more than you know. Number 13 is deeply psychological: the parent who checks out. Flying with kids is a nightmare. We all know that. Parents are exhausted. But some parents view the plane as a fenced-in daycare where they can finally nap. They put headphones on and let their toddler run the aisles, kick the seat in front, or shred magazines on the floor. Flight attendants are not babysitters. They cannot discipline your child, and they shouldn't have to. When a parent completely disengages and forces the crew to be the bad guy telling the kid to sit down, it creates a hostile environment. The crew worries about the safety of the child, turbulence, heavy carts, and the comfort of other passengers. They secretly wish parents knew that the cabin is a shared public space, not a living room, and parental supervision is mandatory at 35,000 feet. Number 14. The upgrader. There is a myth that if you dress nicely or flirt with the flight attendant, they will move you to first class. In the modern era of aviation, this is virtually impossible. First-class meals are counted exactly. Seats are monetized and tracked by corporate. If a flight attendant moves you, they likely have to justify it in a report, or they could get in trouble for giving away product that sells for thousands of dollars. Asking "is there any room up front?" puts them in an awkward position. They have to say no, which starts the interaction on a negative note, unless there is a broken seat or a specific operational reason to move you. The upgrade isn't happening. Accepting your assigned seat with grace is far sexier to a flight attendant than trying to hustle a freebie. Finally, number 15. This is the one that leaves a lasting impression after you have left the aircraft. The disaster zone. Some passengers treat the seat pocket and the floor like a garbage dump. They stuff half-eaten sandwiches into the magazine rack, drop gum on the carpet, and leave sticky spillages on the tray table. Flight attendants and the cleaning crews who have about 5 minutes to turn the plane despise this. It shows a total lack of regard for the next human being who has to sit there. It's the tragedy of the commons. Because it's not your chair, you treat it worse than you would treat a public park bench. The crew wishes passengers would simply hand their trash to the collection cart or carry it off. Leaving a mess is the ultimate sign of a low-quality traveler. So, why does all of this matter? Why should you care what a flight attendant thinks? Because travel is a cooperative experience. We are all jammed into a pressurized aluminum tube hurtling through the stratosphere. The social contract is the only thing keeping it civil. When you understand the pressure points of the crew, the safety liabilities, the physical toll, the unpaid time, the strict protocols, you can navigate the system with empathy. And here is the beautiful part: when you are the passenger who takes their headphones off, who says please and thank you, who keeps their area tidy and respects the crew's space, you get better service, not because you asked for it, but because you are a breath of fresh air in a day filled with friction. The crew notices. The extra snack, the full can of soda, the genuine smile, those go to the passengers who treat the crew like professionals. I want to turn this over to you now. I know many of you are frequent flyers, and some of you might even work in the industry. What is the wildest behavior you have ever seen on a plane? Or, if you are a crew member, what is the one thing I missed that you wish every passenger knew? Drop a comment down below. I read through them, and the stories from the aviation world are always the most insane. Fly safe, be kind to your crew, and I'll see you in the next video.